This is your go-to podcast dedicated to getting the exclusive scoop from the industry's top influencers that are helping to shape the cybersecurity, audit, and IT governance landscape. Tune in as we dig deep and learn their motivators, explore their industry journey, and investigate their ideas and predictions on what the future holds. This is ISACA Cyber Pros. Welcome to the show.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm Jon Brandt, ISACA's Director of Professional Practices and Innovation. I want to introduce my guest, Naomi Buckwalter. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about cyber workforce issues.
Hey Jon, nice to be here.
So for our listeners here, I combed the web there, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I came across a lot of what Naomi is writing about out there. And I'm in a second here, I'm going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself, her background or whatnot. But she's just one of these real people out in industry that is just calling out some of the things that need to be said here. So I'm super excited. I really think that our listeners and viewers are going to find some good stuff out of this, and hopefully it's a really good conversation. Naomi, if you would just give a little bit of background about yourself and what you currently do for a living.
Oh, well, sure. I love talking about myself. It's something that I'm getting too good at, I would say. Hey, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Naomi Buckwalter. I'm currently the Director of Information Security and IT. Yes, long and fancy title. At Beam Technologies, where we make our mission to bring smarter dental care to the entire United States. Even though I think, Jon, dental care should be like a human right. Like, why only people who have full-time jobs? I won't get into politics, I promised you. I've been in technology and security for over 20 years. I know I look young, but that is the filter on my camera. So thank you, Apple. I love this community. I'm here to really just bring some light into the frustrations that I've seen, really. It's just, we are a bunch of charlatans sometimes, right? Like, think about how hard we make cybersecurity sound and how difficult we say our jobs are. Now, I will say, I think our jobs are difficult. I just don't think it's hard to learn. It's not hard to do if we had enough people who helped us do our jobs, right? We just need more people in security. We need more people doing security. It's not really just a full-time thing. I think more people need to be doing security in their everyday jobs in order to win the war on cybercrime. So I'm here today. Hopefully you can help me spread the word. We need more defenders in cybersecurity so we can win the war on cybercrime, because Jon, I would love to sit on a beach when I'm retired. I want to drink an overpriced mimosa, and I want to get fat because I want to retire and I want to just forget about my data and my safety, and if I have gas and food and electricity, those basic human things. I just want to make sure that I have that when I'm older and fatter. So I won't be able to run as fast,
That's awesome. I tell you what, there's so much to unpack there. And that's why I just knew, for our listeners and viewers, I just want to call out that Naomi is my inaugural guest here. So I'm super excited. You could just tell, sometimes we also say, in digital land, right, it's kind of hard to kind of gauge somebody's energy level. Make no mistake, if you follow anything, Naomi's digital footprint, very energetic, very passionate, super excited here. So, I would agree with you, right? I do think that we've largely complicated matters. And, there's so much, there's so much to really unpack here. Let's start with, I'm going to kind of ask the question that that I think is the kind of throwing down the gauntlet, if you will, is people talk about a skills gap, and then there's, alternatively, and you highlighted it multiple times over, like there's just a shortage of people. So from your perspective, is it a skills issue, or is it a shortage of resources?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. If you're going to give me a third option, Jon, we do not have enough people. The people that we do have are overworked and underpaid, I would say, because we're doing the jobs of like multiple people. Think about how small your security team is, right? Like, think of even the Fortune 500 companies. I can't tell you the number of Fortune 500 companies that have like 10 people doing security full time. And you would think that, they would have more, but They don't, and it's super scary. So I will say the people that we have in security are fine. They're great. We do need more of them. We need people of high integrity, high emotional intelligence, great critical thinking skills. We need all of that. And those are the skills that I think the next generation already has. We just need to give them a chance into getting that real world hands-on experience and work in a real environment. So is there a skills gap? A little bit, because I will say the people who don't have the chance to work in a real world experience or real world environment, they're missing that skill. They're missing that experience. And they can't really get that in hands-on labs or anything like that. It's a lot harder to reproduce, right? Like when a business client is like yelling at you to get something done and you're just like, no, we need to do security. And meanwhile, like, no, forget security. Right. So we need a lot more. In fact, we just need more people. We need more people. And then from the other side, there is a demand gap also, John, I will say. And here's what I'm saying. It's not the people that are the problem, not the candidates, not the entry-level people. That's not really the problem. It's the hiring managers, the executives, the leaders in cybersecurity who don't understand that we need the next generation. We need to hire and train the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. And we need them because we're going to retire soon. And the people that need to be stepping into our shoes are never going to get the experience that they need unless we hire them today. The veterans of tomorrow are going to be the new people today. And so why aren't we hiring that next generation? It's because we think cybersecurity is super hard to learn or it's super hard to do. And I will say again, I don't think cybersecurity is hard to learn. Not anymore. Maybe 10, 20 years ago it was, but now we have resources, white papers, books, webinars, awesome podcasts like yours, John. Thank you, ISACA. We have so many things out there that are just freely available to anyone who's willing to learn and put in the time and the effort and the energy. They have mentorships, programs to help new people. We have all that now. Yes, and all these people have been doing this for years and years. Why not now take the people as they are and give them a chance? And I will say, John, I have done this myself, and I know it works because I've done it. And I actually pushed myself to find like the least qualified person, and like in my mind, in terms of cybersecurity, I hired somebody who with zero tech experience. Right? She had an opera singing background. It was just like, at one point I was like, oh, there's no way she's going to learn this stuff because it's way too hard. I'm like, oh. So hard. I was proven wrong time and time and time again. She is currently a full-time cybersecurity analyst. She is crushing it. She is just smart. She's just smart, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there like that. I don't think she's actually unique. I think she's special, but I don't think she's unique because I think there's plenty of people just like her. So don't know if I even answered your question, John. I'll just keep talking until you tell me to shut up.
No, actually, no, you did. And I think, so there's two things. One is, when I was working on my master's in workforce ed and development, it was actually intriguing to me. The word, when we talk about skills gap historically, and this is academic research will tell you that actually aligns to soft skills. And what I'm hearing from you, and just like I've heard from a lot of folks throughout this year, is, listen, we could teach people to do the technical stuff. We could teach them to analyze some stuff. What we need some people who could critically think, who can actually look at things a little differently. They're motivated. They're self-motivated. Quest for knowledge, right? All of those types of things. And you had mentioned there that you think that we have those today, and I think I would partially agree with you that there's undoubtedly tons of people out there that I think could fit the bill. In looking at other industries, though, the challenges we're facing right now are not actually unique. In ISACA's research, the annual state of cybersecurity research, we've seen this year and time and time again that when we ask them what's the biggest shortfall in your workforce, it's resoundingly soft skills. It's not the technical stuff, which kind of speaks to your point. Now, from a practical perspective, I kind of take a step back and I go, well, is it really our problem to fix? Well, no, because it's bigger than us, but then if not us, then who, right? Like, this is that rub of trying to figure it out. This is just John's pie in the sky opinion here, is the easier we've made things for individuals with apps and phones and everything else, the less likely it is for them to be able to grind it out when things get tough. And that's just one of the things. Like, how do you teach perseverance unless you have a tough time in your life? Because that's really where you get it, right? Would you agree?
Are you asking if I'm resilient? Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so for sure. And even more so thanks to the shit show that is the internet. Sorry for the French, but you mentioned, is it our problem to solve it? And I would actually question what you're doing right now is probably helping solve the problem, John. So you might think it's not my problem to solve as an individual, but the fact that you're having a podcast and you're having a conversation, and you're bringing this up as a topic, you are already trying to solve the problem. So if we have more conversations and more people bringing up the topic in normal conversations, and normalizing the fact that this can be done, people start realizing, hey, wait, this is everyone's collective problem that we know we're trying to solve here. We're never going to rely on the government. The government's here, they're going to solve all the problems, right? We're not going to rely on a company like Microsoft to hire 200,000 people within the next X number of years, whatever they said they did in their latest PR release. We can't rely on that because I think it's been done. It's failed. But think about other industries too that have done this and solved this problem, like medicine, right?
You just talked to hit this high point here, and it's something that just scares the crap out of me because, to your point, it is we know undoubtedly have a shortage of people. We have a huge imbalance in the supply demand curve, without a doubt. But this skills gap, which is, I would argue, is probably a little bit mid tier and above, is because what we need continues to change, right? And that's the thing. We're chasing a moving target. When we look at where people are just putting a lot of stock into, AI, or to include ML, and it's like, okay, great, but all we're doing then is reallocating what we need. So maybe you need a few less people over here doing X, but then you basically need them over here to do algorithm work and whatnot. So we continue to shuffle the pile. I love the fact that you opened said we need more net defenders. I absolutely agree with you. And the problem is, from a marketing spin, right, is eh, you know offensive is sexy. Like, let's just, right, like, that is, people are like, oh, I want to be a hacker. Okay, well, I get it, but that market is less. We need more people to actually to kind of grind it out and figure it out. The Where I was going with that is, you talked about the big conglomerates that are out there, and obviously they should be doing something, right? And I think the question is that there's a lot of good stuff happening in small levels, but nothing collectively is proven to scale. Um but whereas up to now, and you look at folks, the one person you talked about who, was an opera singer, right? And no, didn't come from anywhere in of our industry, and that's awesome. And that there's tons of those success stories out there. They didn't come up through IT. There is some benefit, and there's a lot of benefit to having come up through the ranks, but not every cyber job is hands-on keyboard. And I think that speaks to your point, is hire managers don't necessarily know what they need or what's really efficient, right? Because I would be looking across the organization, and we see some of that is happening to gather interest and whatnot, because an employee that works in your company understands the mission, the culture, and everything, is an easier transition. And then you go, okay, listen, these are the things, kind of baby steps to teach you how to do to fulfill your needs. But as the world is IT and just cyber in general, right? A lot of mergers and acquisitions and this cloud movement. All of a sudden, when I look at things, we're really back to like early 2000s, where everything is getting to be vendor specific again. And I don't know what your thoughts are. I'm welcome. And it kind of scares the crap out of me, because it becomes then increasingly difficult to train, because there's a barrier of entry when it comes to licensing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what those gatekeepers like to do. They like to put up these arbitrary gates, X number of years of experience, a CISSP for an entry level job, all these different requirements, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, like all these things. And then you ask yourself, do you really need this, all these requirements, to do a job that maybe doesn't need all those things? So I used to be a gatekeeper, I will say, John, because I used to think, I'm smart. I want to be smart. I want to be the smartest person here. And I wanted to prove that. So I went out, got a bunch of certifications, got a couple of master's degrees, and then later realized, wait, no one likes me. Like, no one actually likes to work with me. They're just ignoring me because I'm an asshole. And once I realized that, it took a while. I would say like maybe 12, 13 years into it, I realized I'm actually not improving the security posture at my company. Nobody's really listening. I am just not great at my job, right? Because I had the soft skills of a piece of Klingon toilet paper, like a used toilet paper, right? So I wasn't great at it. And once I realized that, I'm like, so hold on. So if I'm nicer and I empathized and I was able to speak the language of the business, I think I slowly got the point that, I don't need to be a gatekeeper anymore. What I really needed to do was just look inside myself and be self-aware. And then once that happens, all worlds just opened up to me. I'm like, hold on. Like I didn't need all these master's degree in computer science. I don't need databases and all these other crazy things that we say we need. Like because technology is constantly changing. It's constantly changing. And everyone says, oh, you need the fundamentals and the fundamentals. Well, what exactly are the fundamentals? Can you define those for me, please? Please, anyone, tell me what those fundamentals are. I don't think it's databases. I don't think it's networking. I don't think it's all these other things. I think it's just being very, very comfortable with technology and very comfortable with the internet. And that's basically it. You can find anything you need to know about networking and databases when you come to a problem that needs that information. But I don't think you need to know that before you even apply for entry-level cybersecurity jobs. No, I don't. We're at that point that we've evolved in this industry that we no longer need that stuff. Maybe we did 10, 20 years ago, but we don't need it now. And that's what I'm saying. We need to hire and train the next generation, and it won't happen unless we give entry-level people a chance.
You nailed it there. And there's a lot of folks. To me, it's almost criminal that there's a lot of people out there that have spent their hard-earned money or took out loans to go get certifications, degrees, or whatnot, and they're sitting on the sidelines in skills atrophy. It's not for a lack of their effort on their side, but it's there's not enough people like you that are giving those people chances. And I know we'll work amongst our networks and say, hey, give this person a shot or whatnot, but we need more entry level positions across the board. There's not enough of them. When I first got hired at ISACA, oh boy, like over 7 years ago, I recall a conference that I sat at, and one of the speakers was in a session. It was like a keynote session or whatnot, and asked the question: show of hands, how many companies out there have an organized training program? And as God is my witness, 3 or 4 hands went up only, and we're talking like hundreds of person seat, right? And I don't really think that the problem has changed much. So it's one of those things that it's great, and you should be giving people a chance, but in order to do that, you have to be a culture to basically teach the promote on the job training and whatnot. And that's why alternative pathways in the workforce, to me, are really going to get us. Without them, we're not going to get there, right? At the end of the day. And I'm not saying universities do serve a need. However, 2 to 4 year programs are not. We can't get enough people through those programs fast enough. And by the time they get out of there, is what they were teaching actually even what's going to be necessary? And the data isn't lying right now. Probably not. And historically, it's just not going to happen. We need to be focused on the competencies and teaching people how to critically think and be able to communicate and whatnot, which, having done some, a 4 year in cyber, and other people that I know that have done it, there wasn't really the emphasis on the writing and speaking or whatnot. It was focused on the technologies. And there's a lot of people like that. You need people. You talked about it. Most of us who have been in the industry for any length of time, we came in and we kind of did things the wrong way. We looked at things very binary, yes or no. You can't do that. And there's a reason why security we were kind of laughed out the door. It's like, we can't stop the business. But I digress. From your perspective, is in some of the things you've done, what can we do better, right? So If you had a magic wand, right, and we said, hey, listen, what are the 2 or 3 things that we absolutely have to do better going into 2022 to actually make a dent? Because these numbers are huge. You look at the reporting that's out there, and from my perspective, I really don't care how you came up with the fact that the number is millions of people. I don't. That doesn't matter. What matters is how do we start to make a, kind of chip away at it and make a difference.
Well, lots to unpack there too, Jon. I will just say I'm glad you brought up the point of the training and how you asked the question during the conference and only a few people raised their hand. That doesn't even surprise me. Like, does it disappoint me? Yeah, for sure. But here I am. I'm actually not talking to everybody right now. So all the people who are listening, you're sitting in your car, you're kind of just like, la la la, I can't wait to turn her off, right? Like you're just sitting there. If I'm speaking to you, it probably means that you're interested at least in changing your mind into thinking, yes, maybe I can change and grow the next generation. I'm talking to you, dear listener. I'm not talking to the people who have their mindset. They're like, no, I'm never going to train and never going to hire the next person because they're going to just leave for better pastures and blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking to you. I'm also not talking to the people who are like me, who are already believers, who already have hired and trained the next generation, and we're happy to do it. I'm not talking to you too. I'm talking to the people right in the middle, right into that lovely middle. I'm talking to you, squishy middle. Because if you are sitting there right now and you're thinking, yeah, what can I do? Like, how can I help the next generation? What is my responsibility here? I would say, here's a couple things. And I don't have this planned out, but I'll just say, one, look for potential. There's ways of doing it. If you're asking the right questions during your interviews, you're going to find it. Do not ask questions like what port is SSH, like, and what is SQL injection? Like those questions are terrible for discovering potential. Like you just ask a question that anyone can memorize an answer to just because they looked it up on Google like 3 seconds before the interview. Don't ask those questions. Ask questions that pull out the why for certain things. You talk critically about certain things and be like, hey, can there be too much security and why? It's a great question to start with. Can there be too much security? The answer is yes. Yes, there can be too much security because the purpose of security is to enable the business. You're not there to stop the business from doing anything. You are there as a risk management feature for the business. You are a service for the business. So can there be too much security? Yes. Then you ask them why. A great question asked in order to figure out people's motivations and their ability to think critically. Give them a scenario. Be like, here's something, here's a network architecture diagram. What security or controls are missing? And then ask them why. Say, all right, you're missing a web application firewall. Okay, why would you need that? All right, you're not segregating your tiers and your data. Okay, why? Why do you need to segregate your data? Stuff like that. Like you just ask those questions and have them answer. Answer why. Those are the questions that can help you find and discover high potential in candidates. And so that is number one. Find potential just by asking the right questions. And number two, I will say, another thing you can do, dear listener, sitting in your car, just can't wait to turn me off. You're sitting there making that left-hand turn right now, almost home. I will say, look inside yourself. Be really, really self-aware. Like just start asking questions about who you are, what brought you here, what assumptions you might have that might be wrong. I certainly was able to do that. I think anyone can. If I can certainly look into myself and say I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I can tell you right now, I'm not, right? There's so many people more intelligent, hugely intelligent than me. I just have the biggest mouth, I would say. But if you are just sitting there and you're like, somebody just won't listen to me, or the executives won't give me a budget, or they won't even grow my team, right? Guess what? The common denominator in all of your problems is you. Like you are the problem. So think critically about maybe why people aren't talking to you and why people aren't giving you the headcount or the resources or the money or the budget or anything else that you're asking for. Maybe you don't have the soft skills. Maybe you don't have the emotional intelligence or the business ability to speak to the business and empathize with the business. Maybe that's you. And so once you start thinking critically about that and you're more self-aware, you can now start growing from that. You are now taking those lessons that you've taught yourself and you say, wow. And then you go on from there. You move on. You learn those lessons and you move on. That's totally part of the human experience. You're not supposed to be the smartest person in the room. Everyone is your teacher. And that's totally fine. That is like the beauty of life. And so once you realize that anyone can be your teacher, even the entry-level people in cybersecurity, you are going to go on and do great things, I will say.
Looking back, thinking back to, I think one of the things you had talked about, I think you had used the word higher integrity, right? And I think, that's important. I think humility, right? Everything you talk about there is, we cannot possibly know it all. And unfortunately, the job positions that are increasingly being circulated out there are looking for those unicorns that just don't exist. Like somebody who's done it all. First of all, you're not going to need all of that. And, there's examples of asking for somebody with technology with X amount of years experience that actually exceeded how long the technology was out in the first place. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. That shows a lack of attention to detail on the hiring manager's part. Anybody who knows that, then it's kind of hard to take us serious, right? And the other thing is when you look at these huge numbers that are out there of how many people we allegedly need to hire, at some point this needs to normalize. I've been advocating for a long time. At some point, this is just cybersecurity is going to normalize. It's going to be secondhand to most of us. It happened in the physical security space. It's going to happen here with any other discipline of it. We can't continue to go it alone. And to your point, Naomi, when not only can you learn from the people in your group, even the entry-level person, it's your colleagues across the aisle. And I think some of the collaboration that's happening, not only between physical security and info security, but then looking at the human psychology component of it, because there is this art of persuasion and whatnot, and why people do what they do. And that's an important thing of kind of how you meet them in the middle to explain to them how their actions can be putting the business at risk.
Yeah, I agree completely. Nothing to add there. You got my full support.
So with that, we've covered a lot of ground, Naomi. I think, is there anything we didn't touch on that you want to take this opportunity for our listeners and viewers out there?
Okay, so if you're a hiring manager, for sure, start thinking if you're the squishy middle that I was talking to, and you're willing to give somebody a chance, just ask your network, ask me. I'm on LinkedIn. Ask Jon, he's on LinkedIn. Like, there's plenty of people who are willing to help grow that next generation. And if you just have any questions on how you can do that, there's so many resources out there. Just as there are a number of resources out there for entry-level folks, there are resources out there for our hiring manager cohort. I myself have started a foundation called the Cybersecurity Gatebreakers Foundation. We are there to create resources and guides for hiring managers and the executive team to hire and train the next generation. We are training the trainers. And again, if I'm not speaking to you and you're ready, made up your mind that you don't want to do this, that's fine. You go ahead and delete this podcast. But if you are still here with us and you're still listening, just go out there and do some research. There's a lot of people out there who are willing to train that next generation. And I hope you are too. I hope it changes your mind just a little bit. And you want to hire somebody new, give them a chance if they show any kind of potential. Because honestly, someone gave you a chance too. You were hired for your potential, whether you know it or not. Your first job, you're definitely hired for your potential. So give someone else that chance.
Excellent words of advice there. I want to congratulate you on setting up that foundation. There's not enough of those different things out there. So I'll connect with you offline and see how I can help you promote the entity and basically expand your reach. I'm super jazzed. That's all the time we have here today. I want to thank Naomi again for joining us with what was a very spirited dialogue about just, ground truth of what's going on out there. I'm Jon Brandt. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. To listen to more podcasts from ISACA, please visit isaca.org/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe for upcoming episodes.